Hi there, greetings to Hope Community Church and Television from Emmanuel Church Northstowe. I'm Josh Montero, one of the leaders of Emmanuel Church Northstowe, and it's a privilege to be able to teach God's Word to you this morning. We're looking at Psalm 16, and it teaches us all about joy. And that's something we all want. We want to have a world that is right outside of us and a heart within that's filled with energy and happiness, confidence and merriment. Long to cast off pain and despair and leave behind weary duty and numb survival, the effects of coronavirus and lockdown. We'd love to feel blessed with abundance rather than disappointed as failures, to know profound peace rather than deep disquiet, to have hearts leaping and laughing. We all want that. And it seems to me that actually, by and large, it's only children who get even close to this. Living in the moment, when all is well and they're having fun, they're just full of joy. But as you get older, the pressures of life and responsibility, concern about status, views of others, the oppressive to-do list, and so on, these things mean that our moments of pure joy are few and far between. And yet we long for joy. A bittersweet longing that exposes how grey and empty our lives are, how many hopes have been dashed. And if we don't long for joy, it's probably because we're just so busy coping with the pain. It's actually because things are so bad that all we want is for the pain to stop. But what we all want ultimately is joy. What if it really was an option to live with joy? And that's what Psalm 16 holds out to us. It speaks of a way of life in which there is joy now and forever. But it doesn't do so naively. David, who wrote the psalm 1,000 years before Jesus, is aware of the realities of this world. In fact, the very first thing he does in verse 1 is to say, "Keep me safe, God, for in you I take refuge." David says right at the start, I live in a dangerous world, a world where every achievement and every possession can be taken away, where enemies can take away a life's work with a false accusation, or one mistake can bring a nation crashing down, where natural disasters can shake you, to use the language of verse 8. And David knows, even as king, he is going to be overcome by death, that great enemy, the devourer of human life, whose appetite is endless and whose reign seems unbeatable. And it's that awareness of a dangerous world that makes this psalm so relevant. How do you have joy in a dangerous world? David will tell us how to do that. The first thing it's helpful to notice is that David sees that there are lots of options for joy seekers, lots of things selling joy. In a psalm about delight, verse 3, and pleasant places and delightful inheritances, verse 5, glad hearts and rejoicing tongues in verse 9, and being filled with joy and having eternal pleasures, verse 11, there's one verse that doesn't bring joy, doesn't talk about joy. Verse 4, those who run after other gods will suffer more and more. I will not pour out libations of blood to such gods or take up their names on my lips. David recognizes that there are lots of fake joy sellers. He calls them gods. He knows people are pursuing joy. They need to look for something that will give them that joy, and so they're looking for those things that will make them happy, and the gods are the things that deliver what we think will make us happy. The gods are joy salespeople. David recognizes that people are hardwired to look for joy, and they're going to look to a god to provide that joy. And the only question is, which God will you look to? And will that God deliver the joy they promise? David tells us that those who search for any God other than the true creator God will find themselves with a fake joy seller, somebody who won't deliver the joy that they promise. Now, this idea of gods or of joy salespeople, it may be very weird and unfamiliar. Let me take you back 3,000 years to think about what David would have seen as he looked around him. So David lived in an era of polytheism. People believed in many gods. Almost no one was an atheist. Most people believed in lots of gods, and there were different gods for different areas of life, different skills, different spheres, gods of mountains and rivers and so on. And all these gods were worshipped with animal sacrifices. The libation of blood is the pouring out or sprinkling of blood of an animal that you've killed as part of your worship of God. And then you take up the name of the God in worship, in your prayers and in your songs. And so the question is, or the thing that you would observe is that different people worship different gods. You selected the gods you're going to worship based on who you thought would give you joy or who you thought could take away your joy. It's this kind of deal mentality. You want joy, you think a good harvest and then plenty of beer and bread will make you happy. So you worship Baal, the fertility and rain god. You make sacrifices to him. You invoke his name in prayer in the hopes that he will deliver his side of the bargain and give you rain and then a good harvest and then plenty of bread and beer. Or you want joy and you think victory in war will give you joy. So you pay your price to the war god, the joy seller, and hope he delivers. The blood and the statues are not so familiar now. But the reality of seeking happiness is unchanged. We want joy. The American Declaration of Independence has got humans right when it makes the pursuit of happiness a universal human instinct. And our lives are shaped by the pursuit of joy. We pursue what we think will bring us joy. We treat as a god the thing we think will bring us joy, and we sacrifice everything else to that god because what we really want is joy. So let me pick a few examples, just a scattering. In many Asian cultures, education is the god. The path to meaning and happiness is found in achieving educationally, to go to the best university, studying the best courses, probably medicine or engineering or something like that. And for that god, you will sacrifice every hour of your day. You'll shape your whole family around that god, because if you fail this god, you will never be happy. Some today have a god of their social media account. What makes them happy, they think, is to be online and have loads of people liking their posts and their pictures. And for this god, they will interrupt precious moments. In preparation for the photos, they'll sacrifice their comfort, and for the approval of others, they will hide their true feelings and thoughts. They sacrifice to a god they believe will bring them joy. Perhaps it's health and fitness that is the god. Sacrifice to this god, give time to training, eat the prescribed diet, and then the endorphins will kick in, your body will be healthy, and you'll live long and know real joy. Those are just a few examples. Yeah, you could pick many more. Money, career, family, music, sports, home. There are many gods offering joy to those who worship them. We're still joy seekers. We still look to the many gods to deliver joy. But what David said of his day is still true today. These other gods, these gods who are selling success and joy in exchange for your sacrifices and words, these gods don't deliver the goods. Verse 4, those who run after other gods will suffer more and more. Sometimes the failure is obvious. You just don't actually get the thing that's promised. You work as hard as you can, and you still don't get to university. But what perhaps is even worse is when you get what the God promises and it doesn't make you happy, doesn't bring you joy. You get the top grades and into the top university, but you're not happy, you have no joy. Your quest to prove yourself and achieve always leaves you burdened by expectation and restlessly working for the next level. You get many online likes, perhaps even some advertising revenue as an influencer, but you feel the horrible gap between the online you and the real you. And the likes of people who don't even know you feel hollow. You enjoy good health and your personal best times improve, but it doesn't bring you a joy that lasts through the week. It doesn't solve the mess in your own heart. The gods promise to deliver joy by giving you something in this life. Often they don't even give you that, but even sometimes you do get the thing and you realize it's not enough. That wasn't the thing that gives lasting joy. And so you suffer more and more, in David's words. You realize these are fake joy sellers. I wonder if that rings true for you, that you are pursuing joy and that the things you look to give you joy fail to deliver the goods. It's against that background of the failure of other gods to deliver joy that David goes on to declare the one creator God as the true source of joy. We'll look at that in our next chunk.